They told me it would be the proudest moment of my retirement. After 42 years of teaching high school mathematics, my son finally called with excitement in his voice. "Dad, we're throwing you a party, a real celebration for everything you've built. I want the whole company to meet the man who made me who I am." So I believed him. I wrote a speech. I pressed my Navy suit. I drove 8 hours from rural Ohio to downtown Chicago, with my heart full of gratitude. And then I walked into that hotel ballroom, saw my name on a banner I didn't recognize, and received a text from my son that made my blood run cold. But let me start from the beginning. 3 weeks before my official retirement date, the phone rang while I was grading final exams. It was a Thursday evening, the kind of quiet June night where you can hear crickets through the screen door. I saw my son Marcus's name and picked up on the second ring. Marcus rarely called during the work week. When he did, it was usually brief, distracted, always on speaker while he multitasked. "Dad, hey." I set down my red pen. "Of course, son. Always." There was a pause. I heard him take a breath, the way he used to before asking to borrow the car in high school. "Listen, I've been thinking. You're retiring in 3 weeks, right? End of the school year?" "June 24th, I confirmed. "Last day is the 23rd. "That's what I thought." "Look, Dad, I know we haven't been as close as we should be since I moved to Chicago. The company keeps me running, and I know I don't call enough. But I want to change that. I want to honor you properly." My throat tightened. Marcus had climbed fast at Meridian Capital Group, Vice President of Client Relations at 34. I was proud of him, even if I barely understood what he did all day. Even if our weekly calls had become monthly, then sporadic, then almost nothing. "What are you thinking?" I asked carefully. "A retirement party. A real one. At the Langham Hotel downtown. I want to fly in some of your old colleagues, maybe some former students. I want my whole team to meet you, to hear about the incredible career you've had. You shaped hundreds of lives, Dad. That deserves to be celebrated." I didn't answer right away. My eyes had started to sting. "Dad? You there?" "I'm here," I managed. "I just wasn't expecting this. You deserve it. You've spent 42 years giving to everyone else. Let me give back to you. Let me show my world who my father is." I wiped my face with my sleeve. "That would mean everything to me, Marcus." "Perfect. I'll handle all the arrangements. Save July 14th. That Saturday. I'll send you the details. And Dad, make sure you bring that old photo album, the one with pictures from your first year teaching. I want people to see where you started." We talked for another 10 minutes. He sounded warm, engaged, more like the son I remembered from before business school, before Chicago, before the distance grew wider than the 6-hour drive between us. When we hung up, I sat at my kitchen table and let myself feel something I hadn't felt in years. I felt seen. I spent the next 3 weeks preparing. I wrote a speech, 20 minutes about the importance of education, about the students who changed my life as much as I'd changed theirs. I included the story about teaching calculus to a classroom with no textbooks in 1987 using chalk and creativity. I mentioned the girl who'd gone on to MIT, the boy who'd become an engineer, the quiet kid who'd found his voice in my classroom. I had my Navy suit cleaned and pressed. I bought a new tie, burgundy with thin gold stripes, sophisticated enough for a hotel ballroom. I found the photo album Marcus mentioned, the one with pictures of me at 23, standing in front of my first classroom with an eager smile and terrible haircut. I also reached out to a few people I thought might want to attend. My old department chair, retired now but still sharp. A former student named Jennifer who'd become a professor herself. My brother Tom, who lived 2 hours north in Wisconsin. I wanted them there. Wanted to share this moment with people who understood what those 42 years had meant. The night before the party, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed, going over my speech, adjusting phrases, adding a joke here, a meaningful pause there. I thought about walking into that ballroom and seeing Marcus's face, proud to introduce me to his colleagues. I thought about finally being part of his world, the world he'd built without me. I woke before dawn on July 14th. I showered, shaved carefully, put on the Navy suit, I looked at myself in the mirror and saw a 64-year-old man who'd done his best, who'd shown up every day, who'd never made much money but had made a difference. That had to count for something. The drive to Chicago was smooth. I left at 6 a.m., arrived by noon, checked into a modest hotel 3 blocks from the Langham. Marcus had offered to book me a room at the venue, but I'd declined. I didn't want to be an imposition. I didn't want him spending money he didn't need to spend. I spent the afternoon walking around downtown, killing time before the 5 o'clock start. The city felt too big, too loud, too fast. I bought a coffee at a shop where it cost $7 and tasted like burnt water. I sat on a bench in Millennium Park and watched tourists take pictures of their reflections in the bean sculpture. At 4:30, I walked to the Langham. The hotel was impressive. All marble and glass and chandeliers that probably cost more than my annual salary. I found the ballroom level, followed the signs, and stopped in the hallway when I saw the banner. Meridian Capital Group Investor Showcase. My name wasn't on it. Marcus's was. In large letters, Senior Vice President. Client Relations. I stood there for a long moment, staring. Maybe I had the wrong room. Maybe there were 2 events tonight. I checked my phone. Marcus had texted me the room number weeks ago. Continental Ballroom B. This was Continental Ballroom B. I walked closer. The doors were propped open. Inside, I could see round tables with white linens, a stage with a podium and projection screen, well-dressed people holding wine glasses and making small talk. None of them looked like retired teachers or former students. They looked like executives. I pulled out my phone and texted Marcus. Hey, I'm here. Am I in the right place? I see a banner for Meridian Capital. The reply came fast. Yes. Perfect timing. Come in. I'll find you. I walked in slowly. The room smelled like expensive cologne and salmon. A waiter offered me champagne. I took a glass I didn't want and stood near the back wall, scanning the crowd for my son. He appeared from the left, wearing a charcoal suit that probably cost more than my car payment. His hair was gelled, his smile bright and practiced. He walked toward me with his arms open. Dad! You made it! We hugged briefly. He patted my back twice and stepped away. You look great, he said. Love the tie. Thanks. Marcus, what is this? I thought this was my retirement party. His smile didn't change. It is, Dad. I mean, it's also our quarterly investor showcase. But I wanted you here. I want these people to meet you. I don't understand. He put his hand on my shoulder, steering me toward the center of the room. See, the thing is, Meridian is huge on family values. Our clients are mostly family offices, generational wealth, people who care about legacy. When they see that I come from a solid family, that my dad was a dedicated teacher who shaped young minds for 40 years, it builds trust. It shows I understand values, longevity, commitment. I stopped walking. You want me here so your investors think you're a family man? He laughed, but it didn't reach his eyes. Dad, don't make it sound so transactional. I do want to celebrate you. I just thought it made sense to combine events. Efficient, you know? Where are the people I invited? Jennifer? My old department chair? Oh, yeah, about that. This venue has pretty strict capacity limits, and most of the guest list is our investor database. I figured we could do something smaller for your teaching friends later. Maybe dinner next month. I looked around the room. 200 people, maybe more. None of them knew me. None of them cared about my 42 years in a classroom. When am I speaking? I asked quietly. Speaking. My retirement speech. You asked me to prepare remarks. Oh, right. So actually, the program is pretty packed tonight. I'm doing the keynote about our Q3 growth strategy. Then we have a panel on emerging markets. Then the networking portion. I don't think there's time for a full speech, but I'll definitely introduce you. Maybe you can say a few words during the cocktail hour. Before the program starts? Exactly. Casual. Low pressure. I felt something cold settle in my chest. When does the cocktail hour end? He checked his watch. About 20 minutes ago. But hey, the night's young. Let me introduce you to some people. He started to walk away. I stood there, holding my champagne, feeling my prepared speech burning in my jacket pocket. 20 minutes ago. I'd been sitting in Millennium Park 20 minutes ago, nervous about giving a speech that would never happen. Marcus was already across the room, laughing with a man in a gray suit. He didn't look back. I walked to the bar and ordered water. The bartender, a young woman with kind eyes, handed me a glass. "You okay, sir?" I nodded, just taking it all in. She smiled gently. "I've worked a lot of these corporate events. They all blur together. But you look like you'd rather be anywhere else." I laughed, surprising myself. That obvious? Only to someone who's paying attention. I drank my water and watched my son work the room. He was good at it. Confident, charming, moving from group to group like he owned the space. He probably did, in a way. This was his world, not mine. The program started at 6. Marcus took the stage, thanked everyone for coming, launched into a presentation about market opportunities and strategic partnerships. He spoke for 35 minutes. He was polished, professional, impressive. He didn't mention me once. After his keynote, there was a panel. After the panel, there was dinner. I sat at a table in the back with 7 people I'd never met. They introduced themselves, asked what I did, politely lost interest when I said I was a retired teacher. They went back to talking about portfolio diversification and real estate holdings. I ate my salmon. I drank my water. I checked my phone. No messages. At 8 o'clock, Marcus found me again. He was flushed, riding high on successful networking. "Dad, this is going great. Did you meet anyone interesting?" "Not particularly." "Well, stick around for the after party. That's when the real connections happen." I looked at him. Really looked at him. I saw a stranger wearing my son's face. "When were you going to introduce me?" I asked. "What? You said you'd introduce me to your team. Show them who your father is. When was that going to happen?" He blinked, recalibrating. "Dad, I've been working the room. That's what these events are about. I can't just stop everything to give you a formal introduction. Then why am I here?" The question hung between us. For the first time all night, his smile faltered. "You wanted to celebrate my retirement," I continued. "You wanted to honor me. But I've been sitting in the back of this room for 3 hours, and you've barely acknowledged I exist. So I'm asking you honestly, why am I here?" His jaw tightened. "You know what, Dad? I thought you'd be happy. I thought you'd be proud to see what I've built. But you're being difficult, and I don't have time for this right now. These people are important. They represent millions in potential business. And I represent what? Window dressing? Proof that you come from good stock?" He didn't answer. He didn't need to. I could see it in his eyes. I stood up. I pulled the speech from my pocket, folded in neat thirds, and set it on the table. "I wrote this for you," I said, "because I believed you actually wanted to hear it. I believed you actually cared." I turned and walked toward the exit. Behind me, I heard him call my name, but it was quiet, half-hearted, not loud enough to cause a scene. I walked out of the Langham Hotel at 8:15 on a Saturday night in July. The city was alive, with people laughing, holding hands, living their lives. I stood on the sidewalk and felt more alone than I'd felt in years. Then my phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. "Dad, you're overreacting. This is a big opportunity for me. Can you please come back and just be supportive? I need you here." I stared at those words. I need you here. Not I want you here. Not I value you. I need you. Like furniture. Like a prop. I typed back. No. That was all. Just no. Then I turned off my phone and started walking. I walked for an hour. Maybe more. My feet hurt in my dress shoes. But I kept moving. I thought about 42 years of showing up for students who didn't care about algebra, showing up for parent-teacher conferences with parents who blamed me for their kids' laziness, showing up for Marcus's baseball games, his spelling bees, his high school graduation, his college move-in day, always showing up. And tonight, he'd needed me to show up so he could look good. Not because he loved me, because I was useful. I found myself in front of a small diner, the kind with checkered floors and laminated menus. I went inside and sat at the counter. A waitress, probably in her 50s, brought me coffee without asking. "Rough night?" she asked. "You could say that. Want to talk about it?" I shook my head. "Just want to sit here and not be anywhere else." She nodded. "That I can do." She left me alone. I drank my coffee and stared at my reflection in the chrome napkin dispenser. 64 years old, navy suit, burgundy tie, speech in my pocket that no one would ever hear. I pulled it out and read it to myself. It was good. It was honest. It talked about the purpose of education, the quiet dignity of showing up every day, the legacy we leave through the people we touch. I'd written it thinking Marcus would hear it and understand what my life had been about. But he already knew. He just didn't care. I folded the speech and put it back in my pocket. Then I pulled out my phone, turned it on, and called my brother Tom. He answered on the third ring. "Hey, how'd the party go?" "It didn't," I said. "Long story. Are you free tomorrow?" "Tomorrow's Sunday." "I'm always free Sunday." "What's up? Can I drive up to your place? Stay for a few days?" "Of course. What happened?" "I'll tell you when I get there. I just need to be somewhere I'm wanted." There was a pause. "You're always wanted here, little brother. Always." When we hung up, I paid for my coffee and left a $20 tip. The waitress tried to give it back. I told her to keep it. Small kindness in a night that had none. I drove back to my hotel, changed out of my suit, and packed my bag. Then I drove north toward Wisconsin. I arrived at Tom's place at midnight. He was waiting on the porch with 2 beers and a quiet understanding that I didn't need to explain anything until I was ready. We sat in silence for an hour. Just 2 brothers, looking at the stars, not needing words. The next morning over breakfast, I told him everything. He listened without interrupting, and when I finished, he said exactly what I needed to hear. "You raised him better than that." "I tried." "You did. But at some point, people choose who they become. Marcus chose ambition over integrity. That's on him, not you." "I know. But it still hurts." "Of course it does. He's your son. But Dan, you spent 42 years teaching kids that actions matter more than words. Don't let Marcus's actions erase your own." I stayed with Tom for a week. We fished. We watched baseball. We talked about our childhood, about our parents, about the choices we'd made. He told me about his own son, who lived in Seattle and barely called. He understood. On my last night there, I made a decision. I pulled out my laptop and opened my banking app. For the past 5 years, I'd been sending Marcus $500 every month. It had started as help with student loans, then became help with his first apartment, then just became habit. An automatic transfer on the first of every month because that's what fathers do. They help. I canceled the transfer. Then, I opened my will. Marcus was listed as primary beneficiary. Everything I had, which wasn't much, was supposed to go to him. I called my lawyer on Monday morning. His name was Robert Chen, and he'd handled my modest estate planning for years. "Robert, I need to make some changes." "What kind of changes?" "I want to set up an education fund. Scholarships for students at my old high school who want to pursue teaching degrees. I want my retirement account, my life insurance, everything to go there." "What about Marcus?" Robert asked it gently. No judgment. Marcus has made it clear he doesn't need me. But there are kids out there who need what I can give them. A chance. That's where my legacy should go. All right. I'll draft the paperwork. "You're sure about this?" "I've never been more sure of anything." A week after I got home, Marcus called. I almost didn't answer. But I did. "Dad, we need to talk." "Okay. I've been thinking about the party. Maybe I could have handled things better. Maybe." There was a long pause. "Look, I'm under a lot of pressure at work. That showcase was crucial for my career. I needed it to go perfectly." "I understand." "Do you?" "Because you walked out in the middle of it." That was embarrassing. I felt my jaw tighten. I walked out because I realized I wasn't there for a retirement party. I was there to make you look good. "That's not fair." "Isn't it?" Tell me, Marcus, when you invited me, did you actually plan to celebrate my 42 years of teaching? Or did you always intend to use me as evidence of your good character? Silence. I also wanted to let you know I've made some financial changes, I continued. The monthly transfers have stopped, and I've updated my will. What? Dad, you can't just... I can. And I have. You're a successful vice president. You don't need my $500 a month. But there are students who need scholarships. That's where the money's going now. Are you seriously cutting me off because I didn't throw you the perfect party? I'm redirecting my resources to people who value what I have to offer. There's a difference. Another long silence. Then, cold and clipped, he said, "Fine. Do whatever you want. I have to go." He hung up. I set down my phone and felt nothing. Not sadness, not anger, just clarity. 6 months later, I got a letter from my old high school. The principal, a woman named Dr. Sarah Martinez, who'd been a sophomore when I taught there, wrote to tell me about the first scholarship recipient, a girl named Alicia who wanted to teach mathematics to underserved communities. She'd included a photo. Alicia was holding a giant check, smiling so wide I could feel it through the paper. "Thank you for believing in teachers," Dr. Martinez wrote. "Thank you for showing us we matter." I put the letter on my refrigerator. I looked at it every morning while I made my coffee. 2 weeks after that, there was a knock on my door. I opened it to find a man about my age, holding a folder. "Professor Carson? I haven't been called that in a while. Can I help you? I'm James Mitchell. I was in your calculus class in 1991. I squinted, trying to place him. James, the kid who almost failed first semester because I was working 2 jobs and kept falling asleep in class. You tutored me every day during lunch for 3 months. Wouldn't let me quit. The memory came back. Skinny kid, exhausted, too proud to ask for help until I'd cornered him after class. I remember. You ended up with a B+. He smiled. I ended up with a scholarship to University of Illinois. I ended up with an engineering degree. I ended up designing water systems for developing countries. I ended up with a life I never would have had if you hadn't cared. My eyes started to sting. That's wonderful, James. I found out you retired. I live about an hour from here now. I wanted to say thank you, in person, for not giving up on me. We talked for an hour on my porch. He told me about his work, his family, his son who was starting college next year. When he left, he hugged me and said, "You changed my life, Professor. I hope you know that." I stood on my porch long after his car disappeared, feeling something I hadn't felt since that night in Chicago. I felt seen. I am 64 years old now. I live in a small town in rural Ohio. My retirement is quiet. My life is simple. And my family is exactly who I choose it to be. Tom calls every Sunday. We've started a tradition of monthly fishing trips. James comes by every few months, always with stories about his work, his family, his life that I helped make possible. I don't hear from Marcus. I don't expect to. I saw on LinkedIn that he made senior vice president. The post had hundreds of likes and congratulations. I didn't add mine. The scholarship fund is growing. We've awarded 3 students so far. I've met each of them. I've looked into their eyes and seen the same hunger I had at 23. The same belief that education can change the world. What I know now, what I wish I'd known sooner, is this. Your worth is not determined by the people who fail to see it. It's determined by the lives you touch when you're not looking for credit. I spent 42 years showing up for students who forgot my name the week after graduation. But some of them remembered. Some of them carried what I taught them into the world and made it better. That is legacy. Not a banner with your name on it. Not a son who uses you as a prop. Not applause in a ballroom full of strangers. Legacy is a girl named Alicia holding a scholarship check, smiling at a future you helped create. Legacy is James Mitchell, designing water systems for villages that will never know my name. Legacy is showing up every day and believing that it matters, even when no one's watching. I am not a networking opportunity. I am not a character reference. I am not proof of someone else's family values. I am Daniel Carson. I am 64 years old. I taught mathematics for 42 years, and I changed lives whether anyone acknowledges it or not. And that, in the end, is more than enough. If you're listening to this, and you've ever felt used, if you've ever stood in a ballroom wondering why you're invisible, if you've ever given your whole heart to someone who treated it like a resume bullet point, I want you to know something. You are not a prop. You are not a credential. You are not someone's proof of character. You are exactly who you've always been. The person who showed up. The person who cared. The person who made a difference in quiet ways that mattered more than any banner or title or ballroom speech. So, stop waiting for validation from people who will never give it. Stop measuring your worth by the attention of those who only see your utility. Measure it by the lives you've touched. The students who remember. The strangers who knock on your door to say thank you. The brother who always picks up the phone. The girl with the scholarship check who will teach the next generation because you believed in her. They exist. I promise you they do. And when you find them, you'll know. Because you won't have to wonder if you matter. You'll feel it. Like James on my porch, thanking me for not giving up on him. Like Alicia's smile in a photograph, holding proof that education still matters. Like Tom's voice on Sunday mornings, steady and sure, reminding me I'm never alone. Like coming home to a life you built on purpose, not performance. Thank you for listening to my story. If it meant something to you, I hope you'll remember that your worth isn't measured in ballrooms. It's measured in moments. Small ones. Quiet ones. The ones that change everything. We all deserve to be valued for who we are, not what we can do for someone's image. We all deserve to stop performing and start living. We all deserve to know that showing up matters, even when the applause never comes, especially then.